Hello, it's Dr. Oriol Lugo, PhD in psychology, and we have here a new program today in English because we have a special guest that is Jim Edwards. Welcome to this space, Jim. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you very much for having me.
For me, it's a pleasure. I found your book in Spanish, then we will introduce the book, and I just need to know the author, even in English, but for me was a challenge to meet Jim Edwards, the author of the book, Say Thank You for Everything. Let's start introducing you to make that people can have an idea about who is Jim Edwards. First of all, we have to say that you are the editor-in-chief of Insider's new division. Previously, you were the founding editor of Business Insider in UK. Also, you were managing editor at Adweek, advertising columnist at CBS Interactive, and a Knight-Bagehot Fellow at Columbia Business School, and the author of the book that we just introduced, that is Say Thank You for Everything, The Secrets of Being a Great Manager, Strategies and Tactics That Get Results. What was the origin of this book, Jim? How do you just jump to the idea of creating this kind of book?
Okay. Yeah, sure. So the origin of the book is based in an email that I sent to a friend who was promoted to run a big division of Insider, the Business Insider division. Her name, this was several years ago now. Her name is Alison Chantel. She's currently the editor-in-chief of Fortune magazine. But at the time, this was her first really big promotion. And I called her to say congratulations and to ask her if she needed any help. At the time, I was running the United Kingdom division and the international sites as well. And I said, you know, if you need any advice, just please let me know. And she said, I need all the advice I can get. So I went back to my desk and I sat down and I wrote her an email that ended up being 19 pieces of advice. I called it 19 pieces of unsolicited advice. The very last piece of advice on there was just say thank you for everything. Whenever your team or your staff do something or complete a task, just remember to say thank you. And she loved the email. And then as the years went by, whenever a colleague of mine got promoted or whenever I promoted someone to run a team, I would send them a version of this email. And I found as the years went by that I wasn't changing the email very much. Like it stayed current. It stayed true. What year was it? I think in 2021, I talked to a friend in publishing and I said, you know, is this email worth turning into a book? We could make the book we could base the book on the 19 pieces of advice in the email. And he said, yeah, that sounds like a book, actually. The book is not quite just 19 pieces of advice, but the book does revolve heavily around the themes that were in that email. So that was the original inspiration for the book.
So good, because you can find that there are sometimes things or points that are really for common sense, to say thank you, to make a comment of gratitude, to help people, to listen to people. But these basic things sometimes are missed. We don't find them in companies, in organization, in relations. It's curious, this kind of situations.
Yeah, and so I still work in the news media, and in the news media, it's famous for bad management, right?
Yeah.
Like there's famous for like people shouting and there being a lot of egos and fighting in the newsroom and stuff like this. And it turns out you do not have to do it this way. And the reason it's called Say Thank You for Everything is because one night, when I was working at Business Insider in New York, it was at the very beginning of my career there, so more than 10 years ago. I had asked a colleague to work with me on a project, and the project was taking a long, long time. It was taking much longer than I thought it would when I started the task. And we were still working late on Friday evening, and almost everybody else in the office had gone home. It was getting dark, you know, and it was me and this one other woman still trying to get this project finished. Eventually, at about 8 o'clock, something like that, we get done. Her name was Laura. And she gets up to leave and is walking towards the door. And I said, "Oh, Laura, one more thing." And she turned to look at me with like daggers in her eyes because she thought I was going to bring her back and make her stay even
She was
longer.
thinking, I want to go to sleep. I want to return my home.
I want my margarita. So she looks at me and I said, you know, I just want to say thank you for all the hard work you put in. I know I made you stay late and this took a long time, but it was really worth it. And I really noticed the work you did. And I just want to make sure that it's it's appreciated. And her face lit up and she said, you know, no problem. And she left and went and had a happy weekend. And then this guy who was sitting across from me, who was like the last guy in the office, he was looking at me, and I looked at him and I was like, "What is your problem?" And he said, "No one here has ever said thank you to me before." And I thought, can this be true? Are we really like telling each other to work late and to do all this hard work and not say thank you to each other? This sounds crazy to me. But then I thought about my own career and all the previous places I've worked at, and it is actually really very common for bosses to demand that tasks at work be done, but to never say thank you, you know. And a huge part of stress at work and the way workers become disengaged from work and alienated from work, and the way they end up hating their bosses is that the bosses think that the pay, the wages, the salaries, they think that's enough. And actually it's not enough. Like that's the base level, but what people actually want is to feel appreciated. They want their work to be seen and for someone to say, I noticed that. That was good. Thank you. And that is my very first piece of advice. There's a lot more advice in the book. It's not just
but it's true. It's true.
The single easiest thing you can do to make yourself a better manager.
Because we need the emotional salary, not only the wage, the economical, but also the emotional. Because if we don't have this part, we feel that we are only numbers in a company. We are not humans. We are not persons that really are just dedicating our time and our energy.
I like that idea, emotional salary. I'm going to write that down. I might steal that from you.
Yeah, of course. Because the idea is that you need also to be paid, but with emotions, with thank you, with maybe, I don't know in United Kingdom, but here in Spain, we are more with, we like to touch. We are touchy people. And sometimes it's like, okay, make a hug or just a simple contact that, and this kind of actions makes the other feel appreciated. I don't know in United Kingdom, maybe you can touch so much. You are more with distance.
Well, no, it's interesting that has changed a little bit in the United Kingdom. When I first worked in London in 2014, it was a lot of touching and a lot of hugging and a very European style, particularly in the media. You would frequently do the double kiss, you know, the double kiss, the French.
Yeah.
But then we had the Me Too stuff and Harvey Weinstein and all the sexual harassment scandals. So it's become a little bit more formal. There's a bit more of a handshake.
Well, but it depends.
I agree. People need to feel like human beings, and they need to feel noticed. And if you treat people like machines, you will lose them.
Correct. It's totally true. In your book, you say, or you mention the idea of whales and fails. It's a method that you consider, you created. Let's talk a little bit about this method.
Okay. So it's really pretty simple, but again, it's one of those things that most managers never do. In Whales and Fails, you hold a weekly meeting with your team, and you ask each member of the team to describe something that they worked on that really went well, that was a success, and to describe, crucially, why it was successful, like what made it a success, not just that it happened. You can't just say, I got lucky. You have to say, these were the steps I took, and here was the response that customers or readers had to it. And these are your whales. But at the same time, everyone also has to describe a fail, something that worked on that didn't work out, that was no good, that was a failure. You know, maybe sales were poor, or readers didn't look at it, or whatever your product is. If you're in a restaurant, you know, we created a dish, no one ate it. You have to describe why this thing failed, so that this process forces you, the individual, but also the team, to really understand why something succeeds and why something fails. And then crucially, you have to resolve that you will stop doing the fails and you will do more of the whales. And this simple process stops your team wasting its time on stuff that doesn't work, and it moves your team to the tasks that actually succeed, that are actually driving the business, that are creating success. And if you do this repeatedly, week after week, you get this situation where you're driving up the results of your entire team constantly. And this sounds very simple and obvious now that I say it out loud, but I think we've all worked in offices or factories or restaurants or wherever, where everyone just does the same thing every day, week after week. Nothing changes, and the success of the business is dependent on luck or the outside environment or something happening in the marketplace, but there's no change, and no one ever says, oh, maybe we should stop producing this.
Correct.
So introducing that culture of constant change, the simplest way to do it, in my opinion, is through Whales and Fails.
Totally agree. When I was reading this, Jim, I had some questions, because I was trying to compare the Spanish culture and the English culture, because here in Spain we have a problem with the failure. We don't have a good relation with failing. Here in Spain, when someone fails, it's like that everybody starts judging. Oh, you did that, you are a failure. And really, we are very scared about failing. I think that our culture has a lot of things that are very good, are exceptional. But in this area, we need to learn a lot about other countries. And when I was reading this was, okay, how I can introduce this to my company, in my organization? Because we are psychologists and we do also meetings, and we share the experience. But sometimes there is this point of shyness of, oh, the other day I did this wrong. And I don't know, it's a challenge.
That's interesting, because among psychologists, you must conduct experiments, social psychology experiments. And sometimes experiments don't work. And you learn from that the phenomenon doesn't exist.
Totally. Totally.
You know, and that is useful, even though it feels like a failure. The thing with failure is that you need it, because you will learn a lot from failure. You will learn much more from failure than you will from success, frankly. And you have to fail a lot. And it is good and healthy to give your staff, particularly in a creative industry, or in an industry where workers have to think to do their work. You need to give them space to fail. You need to give them space to work on something that doesn't work out. That will help teach them and help teach you what not to do, the mistakes to avoid. That is actually very important. It's important, but it's difficult for companies to measure, because failures don't produce revenue. They don't produce sales. So you can't measure it in money. You kind of have to measure it in like imaginary money that we didn't waste on something we're going to avoid, which is a very conceptual idea. But we all can think of companies that have launched products that people have hated, and they should have, they should not have done that. But Yeah,
And,
failure is really important. If you talk to very successful people, they will all tell you about early parts of their career which were disastrous.
and also it's part of science. Science, just like other areas, but in concretely science advances thank you or thanks to the errors that people do and how they improve, and they keep trying, and then they find a solution. It's part of the results that we obtain from the science. Let's talk, Jim, about another area, that is the hiring. When you hire a person, you have a good challenge too. So in your book, you dedicate a part of how to hire, or how to create good process or good methods to hire the correct or the appropriate people.
Right. That's a long chapter.
Yeah, it's a long chapter. Just like let's do a little points about this, because being sincere with you, when I hire people, I always have the doubt of, is this the correct person for this position? When I just hire a new psychologist, or when I hire a new employee, I always have this doubt, no? And then when the person starts working or starts performing, you can just adjust your previous ideas to the reality. But sometimes you have this fear of maybe the person that is inside your organization can create a lot of problems, because it's not about the performance, but also the attitude, like the concept of toxic people that I don't like a lot. But sometimes when you just hire a toxic people or a toxic person, it can create a lot of problems inside the organization.
Yeah, so I have a little section on, I call them toxic rock stars, because toxic people are easy to spot. And if they are pure bad, then it's easy to just get rid of them. But a more difficult problem is when you have a toxic person who is actually also very successful. And let's say they're in sales and they are selling a lot. They're the number one person in sales in your organization, but they are a terrible person. They are causing drama in the office. They're showing up late. They're leaving early. They refuse to attend meetings. They refuse to help with, in almost every job I've had, there are like the big important tasks, but there's also like a large number of small, very routine tasks that everyone has to do. And the toxic rock star will always refuse to do the basic, the work. A classic one is
the outsider. He doesn't want to be inside the organization. He's like his own boss or his own ruler.
Yeah, I always think about like the kitchen in the office where people put their coffee mugs and their tea mugs. Like if you ask someone, could you wash up these mugs? Do they say yes or no? Some people just say, no, I'm not doing the washing up. That's someone else's job.
This is not for me. This is not for me. Like he's in another level.
I'm above this.
Exactly.
The problem with these people is they may get really good results, but they are poisoning the rest of the office. First of all, they're creating unfairness because the other employees can see that you are treating them differently. You are not requiring them to come to meetings. You are not requiring them to be in the office on time. They don't have to wash up the coffee cups in the kitchen. And this breeds resentment. It breeds bad feeling. And then you start getting other people saying, well, if he doesn't have to do it, then I don't have to do it. And then the whole process starts to break down. So keeping the toxic rock star is usually a false economy. There is a sort of myth, well, he's very good, so if I just manage him specifically, I can somehow shield the organization from him and we'll keep the results and we won't have the bad problems. This never happens. Usually a month, 2 months, 6 months down the line, you're sitting in a meeting and everyone is saying, I cannot stand this guy. We have to get rid of him. So the toxic rock star, you have to ignore the fact that they're a rock star. It's the toxicity will poison the rest of the organization. That's a very negative part of the book.
There is no intermediate solution. there is no the equilibrated solution. It's just or fighting or just
It's
adopt
very
him.
difficult. It's with people who are actually, toxic, where some workers are they're not toxic, but they're just not very good.
Yeah.
Or they're good at some things, but they're bad at other things.
Yeah.
But they have a good attitude, they have good faith, and their failings are accidents. It's not because they're not trying.
Yeah.
With a toxic rock star, they're very good at one thing, but they just refuse to do anything else.
Yeah.
And these are the people that in the end you have to get rid of.
Yeah. Because if an apple, no, it's like the metaphor of the apple. If an apple is rooted, all the group of apples, all the whole apples will be also rooted. This is quite simple with fruit, but also with people. So it's better to change it faster or immediately.
True.
No?
True. And
totally.
if you are the manager, if you are the boss of this person, then everyone else in the company starts to judge you because you are not dealing with this person and you're treating people differently. You have a favorite and you have everyone else.
Exactly.
And now they lose faith in you. They lose faith in your judgment. They lose faith in your ability to treat people equally. And so it all of these like consequences start spiraling off this one person in the office.
Correct.
Which is why ultimately you have to get rid of them.
Totally. It's like kids, no? That sometimes when you have more than one kid, no, they just sometimes compare. You are the favorite. No, you are the favorite. No, you. And sometimes it's the same, no? People wants to feel recognized, and it has to be equally for all the employees, not just for the rock stars. Let's talk, Jim, about the enemies, because you have another chapter that you talk about to bring your enemies to lunch. It's like, prepare your knives because they are ready.
I was wondering where you were going with that for a second.
Yeah. What is the information or what is the knowledge that we can obtain about or from our enemies? Because sometimes our enemies are a fountain or a origin or a mainstream of information. We can learn a lot about them. And in your book, you show these ideas of taking profit, no, of your enemies.
Yeah, so I have two ideas about enemies. The first is sometimes you get into a fight with someone at work, and if you have a dispute with someone at work, it can be very, very stressful because you are forced to be with them day after day and work alongside them. And this can feel very stressful and almost humiliating. It's different from being in a family or having a friend. When you argue with a friend or a member of your family, you can, ignore them for 3 weeks. And when you feel better, talk to them again. But at work, you're there every day.
Correct.
So you cannot let this sit. And the best way to do it, in my opinion, is to go to lunch with this person, invite this person for lunch, get out of the office, sit down face to face, and start the conversation in the normal way, but eventually you have to confront. You have to say, look, I'm really sorry, but we are not getting along here, and we work in the same place, so we have to solve this. And there is something psychological that is useful about leaving the office and eating food with someone that really brings down the temperature. It brings down the stress level, and people feel more relaxed. And also there's a little bit of perspective because there's distance from the office, and the problems don't feel quite so great when you're having good food. And this, for me, is the best way to solve a dispute in the workplace. You can do it by pulling someone into a conference room, but that also feels stressful. In the conference room, everyone can see that you walked into the conference room. Everyone's looking at the closed door. Are they in trouble? Is this good? Is this bad? You can. The one method that does not work is sending this person an email that says, here's why you are wrong. You must agree with me. No one wants that email.
No, because this is rational and we are emotional. So we need this kind of emotions. We need this kind of contact. Yeah.
And you need to understand how they see it too, because the thing with being a manager is you do not have all the information, right? There is stuff going on in the company that only the workers know. And so before you attack someone or ask someone to change their behavior or try to resolve a dispute, you need to ask as many questions as you possibly can to get their side of the story, so that you know you have all the information you need to make a good decision. You can't just fly in there unprepared. And lunch is a really good place to do that. The other good thing about lunch is when you sit down, you are stuck there for 1 hour because you have to wait for the waiter to serve food. You have to wait for the coffee. All of that. So you will get a long time with this person, and it's a good place to humanize yourself.
It's a way to learn about yourself, because it shows that you are very mature to do this decision, to take this decision. Because normally when you consider another person that is your enemy, you want to refuse all the things that came from this person. You are just avoiding all the emails or all the information. And this is the reverse. It's just showing up, just facing up these kind of situations. You are trying to grow as a person. You grow personally, because this helps you to discover maybe the points that you are not, the blind points, the areas that you are blind.
You need to understand them, but you also need them to understand you. You need them to understand why, if you are the boss, why you need this dispute solved and why you need this work done. The worker may think, I don't want to do this. I don't like it. It's not fun. It's not useful to me. It feels like a waste of my time. But almost always in a company, a manager is asking for work to be done because it really needs to be done. Like some aspect of the business needs this to be achieved. It is not negotiable. You know, work is not a democracy.
Exactly.
So you need this person to understand you and to understand that you also are trying to solve a problem.
Yeah, totally. Jim, we are reaching the final part of this interview. It flows very fast. It's a good sign that we are enjoying, that we are learning a lot. It's a good sign of that we have been enjoying this time. I would like Jim to launch a last advice, to share with the audience a last tip. We have been giving a lot of tips, a lot of advices, but maybe the last one last advice, and also to recommend your book and telling people where they can buy it, and also how they can contact you if they have any doubt. In English, please, not in Spanish.
I would say, if you are a new manager, the single most useful thing you can do is, let's say you just get a promotion or you just get that new job and you are the new manager and you're working with a new team, or it's a new position. The single most useful thing you can do is to sit down with each team member individually and ask them what is working here and what is not working here, and take notes while they speak. And then after you've talked to every single person on the team, the answer to those two questions, what works, what does not work, that will give you your plan. And they will be in favor of your plan because they will be able to see that you listened and you took their advice, and that you're now trying to implement the things that they recommend, to the things that will improve the business, but also to stop them from working on things that are failing. And remember, figuring out what to stop is a really good thing to offer as a manager, because you are basically saying to your workers, I want you to do less. Like, we are doing too much. This stuff over here doesn't work. Let's stop. Let's walk away. And being able to say to a team, you know, I need less work from you. I need you to focus on the things that work, the things that we're doing well. But let's not do everything. This is a very powerful thing. And, you know, you turn their plan into your plan, and this will almost always be a really very good plan.
It's a way of helping. When the manager, I guess, when the manager does this, or he or she is trying to do this. It's like that he or she's showing a position of helping. I'm not here to judge you or to create you more pressure. No, I'm here to help you, to listen to you, to make a plan that maybe we can work together. So it changed the perspective.
Yeah, absolutely.
So interesting. And Jim, where people can find you, where people can buy your book?
All right, so the book is called Say Thank You for Everything. You can find it on Amazon or any of the big online bookstores. That's the English version.
Yeah, totally.
There's a Spanish version called Say Thank You. I don't know why they changed the
Los
title.
secretos para ser un buen líder.
Yeah. Thank you.
From the Profit editorial.
Yeah, Profit editorial. And again, I'm sure you can find it online. But yeah, Spanish or English, the choice is yours.
Okay. So Jim, thank you very much for your time, for your advices. I hope that the people that are watching this interview can just take a lot of notes, because Jim has given a lot of advices, a lot of tips that you can implement. You can just adapt to your organization, to your work, to your job, to your organization. So you can start working right now with all this information. And also, if you want more, if you are you need, or you consider that you can obtain more information, you can buy the book of Jim Edwards, Say Thank You for Everything, Decir Gracias por Todo in Spanish, The Secrets of Being a Great Manager. Thank you very much, Jim. It's a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
All right. Bye.